Some breaking news on the campaign trail. Senator Kamala Harris has actually suspended all of her travel through Sunday. This after 2 members of her staff tested positive for coronavirus. So this was a flight crew member and Harris's communications director, Liz Allen. They both tested positive. Also, a staff member actually for the charter company that flies Biden around tested positive, but the vice president said that his team said that he wasn't within 50 feet of this individual, right. So he hasn't changed any of his travel plans. But looks like this comes at a time when we may not want to think about it that much because it's really depressing. But coronavirus continues to spike, and yes. We are very much headed to, we had the first peak, we never came all the way down. Then we had the second peak, and now it looks very much like we're headed towards a third peak.
It certainly does. So just to lay this out, everybody, the first peak of cases happened on April 10th. This is per some New York Times data I'm looking at. 31,000 new cases in a rolling 7-day average. Then the next peak came, the highest that we've had so far, 66,690 cases in July 19th. Things dipped a bit, but they never dipped below. They actually never even dipped low as the previous peak of April.
Right.
Now we are back to a rolling 7-day average of 52,156 cases as of yesterday. So that is where we are currently, basically climbing, some people suspect, towards a third peak. And you can see actually that the number of cases is much more widely distributed. It's really interesting. You look at the initial outbreak, it was like Louisiana and New York City and Georgia, some of those places.
Yeah.
Then what happened is basically the Sun Belt got smacked. You got all the way from Texas through Florida and all the way up to basically Virginia. Now it's the Midwest turn. So I'm looking at the map here. You can actually see the virus climbing up, and it's not a surprise because temperatures are actually dropping in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan,
people heading
the
indoors.
Dakotas, Nebraska, these types of places. This is a lot of what people predicted, which does take several months to go through more rural areas. But as temperatures drop in particular, that you begin to see this. So several people saying that this is a quote, we are headed in the wrong direction. That's reflected not in the number of new cases, but in the test positivity and the number of hospitalizations. I saw that South Dakota, actually, some of the hospital beds are having some problem there in terms of capacity. We're not being alarmist saying it's a huge break, but it's bad, and it's increasing. And this was always an issue of concern, which is that the closer and closer we got to the election, temperatures began to drop, no stimulus, which means people are going to be really desperate, maybe even people going out there. All of these are bad conditions for spreading the virus. That's kind of where we are right now.
And I think, when you see Kamala Harris's staff testing positive, and obviously they've been extremely cautious, as cautious as they possibly could be, it just shows you, no one's exempt here. And even if you take all the precautions, that's going to help to protect you. It's going to help to protect your family members, your community members. All of those things are important. But there are absolutely no guarantees here. When you had yesterday 65,000 new cases and 793 new deaths, I think that is it's still a lot of deaths every day that we're at. But I do think the improvement in therapeutics and understanding of the disease has led to a better ability to treat it and help people to survive this thing ultimately. But we shouldn't put the blinders on. We have to acknowledge that in a lot of the country, they're seeing the worst spikes and the worst outbreaks that they have in this entire crisis. And we're all sort of exhausted by this thing.
Yes.
We've been in this much longer than anyone wanted to think or imagine at the beginning. But when you look at the numbers, it becomes clear that we are far from out of the woods right now.
Yeah, so everybody keep an eye on that. The rolling 7-day average is the most important thing because it's not, aberrant. And we can see that if that begins to shift upward, we get back to that kind of 66, 77,000 and elsewhere. I also want to point out, this isn't just the United States. Europe is actually very much in line
they have a
where
spike
we are.
Too.
They are not doing so well over there. Generally, across the Western world, we have not handled this particularly well. So it's not great.
Not great. More rising for you after this.